There is a new AI bot on the marketplace. The AI Quantum Perceptor X has a very fancy sounding sales page, but let's see if it actually uses AI or if this is just another classic MQL5 scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So this developer, Ms. Dolores Martin, has put out quite a few of these very fancy AI bots recently. And ultimately, I have found that none of them have actually used AI, and they've mostly just been fairly overpriced basic expert advisors. So this seems to be her latest addition to the family. And the sales page is exceptionally complex and appears to just be a ChatGPT printout of a variety of AI-based jargon. So if we start off here on the sales page, we can see that she's saying that this is an autonomous system engineered for capital logic, risk control, and long-term sustainability, not speculative behavior. But frankly, trading in general is speculation. That's essentially the definition of trading. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. And apparently it trades both gold and the euro dollar, and it uses DeepSeek to make trading decisions with AI logic. And there's no actual indication in regards to the true strategy that it uses. It just has some very fancy looking screenshots here. It's meant to look very AI-y. If you run this video here, you can see that they've hired a nice actor to discuss all things expert advisors. So yeah, like so far it's not looking great because really it seems that they're not really telling us how it works. There's just a ton of jargon, effectively name dropping fancy AI terms to make it seem complicated, whereas in reality it probably just follows a rather simple grid martingale. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. If we go to the cognitive core processor explained, we can see that this was like literally written by ChatGPT. If you ever use ChatGPT, and I'm a big fan of it, it's a great coding assistant. You can see that if you ask it to write something, it often does this type of style. You have the little emoji, you have the great formatting here, you have the lines between the different sections. Like this is a pure like ChatGPT printout, right? So effectively here she's talking about a variety of very complex AI tools, so like DeepSeek AI operational principle, nonlinear reaction, dynamic impulse tracking core, like sure, like some of these might be applicable in various AI research themes. However, I highly doubt that it's actually being used by this expert advisor to do anything, right? Like what on earth is pseudo-intuition? Like to an external observer, the behavior may appear intuitive, but in fact it's a multi-layered neurophase certainty modeling, right? Like she's just putting in the Wikipedia page and quite literally a ChatGPT printout to make it seem like this thing is complex. But in reality, like I highly doubt that any of this cutting edge technology is actually being used by a MetaTrader expert advisor. Specifically, like how one would go about coding all of this would be practically impossible just with the limitations of what you could do in an EA and with the actual MQL5 language. At the same time, I don't believe they even have an API key for the DeepSeek model. So really this is just like pretty blatant fraud because they're not actually showing us anything, like they're not actually using what they say they're using. So it's not great. But now let's move over to the signal page, and we have two. We have one which actually seems a bit more legitimate that has been running on the Euro US dollar for quite a few years, which is actually pretty impressive. I would imagine that this developer has just been trading it on their own personal account for quite some time. Once again, we don't even know if this is the same expert advisor or if it's just another account they've been using. We don't really have a way of verifying that. They have been trading the Euro USD, but I venture this is just a pretty basic grid martingale style EA on the Euro USD. Why is that? Because we're seeing a classic grid scaling here along with trades closing at the same time. So nothing super revolutionary here. They're just trading some sort of EA on the euro dollar, but we don't really know if that's exactly the strategy which this thing is running. They have a new signal here as well, which has been trading gold, but that's once again on everybody's favorite scam broker WellTrade with just a handful of different trades here. So we have no idea if this is actually even a real signal, if it's been manipulated, and this is not a statistically significant amount of trades either, so really no way of assessing if this is actually a good signal either. So far, not looking great. But let's pop over to the MT5 terminal, where I've taken the liberty of running a quick backtest. This was the backtest on gold, and what we can see is that if you were to run this thing actually on the euro dollar, it went bust rather quickly. But here I ran it on gold, and it did actually have a pretty beautiful looking backtest, like effectively a perfect backtest, where it turned $1,000 into $1.76 million, and there's no grid scaling here either, which is a bit odd. And so this, to me, smacks of manipulation, because like every trade is pretty much perfect. It's following a simple mean reversion premise. So it looks like there was some heavy over-optimization and or just blatant cherry picking of the losing trades going on here. But the actual premise looks to be more mean reverting in nature. So from what I can see so far is that this is a heavily manipulated signal. I think if you were to run it live, most likely it has to rely on some sort of grid martingale system. But unfortunately, with this degree of manipulation in the backtest, we don't really have a way of assessing what is legitimate and what is not legitimate, right? Because we can't actually go through and reconcile how it's trading versus a live signal, and that's not great for us. I also ran it on the euro dollar, and the euro dollar would actually, it was very unprofitable. It blew the account for some reason. And it's also not necessarily following a grid martingale style system here. It's just using slightly larger profit targets on the euro dollar, but once again, always appears to be very profitable too, or at least at the beginning before it starts to blow. So something very fishy is going on here. Ultimately, we can't assess whether or not it's performing how it should be performing. I venture that there's some degree of grid martingale in the live signal, in live performance, at least if it matches the live signal. And all the AI stuff seems pretty fake in my opinion. If we go to the inputs tab, like you can put use DeepSeek model, but there's no place to actually stick an API key. So ultimately, how does it actually access DeepSeek if there's no key? Unless I'm missing something here, but I don't think that there's anything. Use DeepSeek settings. Maybe you can put a key there, not sure. Additional money deposits. I'm not seeing anything here. So ultimately, not looking amazing so far. And for our final test, let's run ourselves a quick visual back test to see if maybe we can glean something else. So it's using the classic, very fancy visuals here to make it seem sophisticated. It looks like a mean reversion system, so probably a hard-coded RSI and or Bollinger Band, just because those are fairly easy to code. But nothing spectacular here, guys. Stay away. Once again, this is not an AI bot. It's just some likely overpriced basic martingale, or if not a martingale, overpriced just scam system. This is not a good bot. Very much just blatantly fake. Don't buy it. Take care. Have a great day. Hope you liked the video.